Please give a warm welcome for today's guest, Mr. John Peake.
I want to thank Dory and the Scheller College of Business for having me here, first of all. Really appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and start right in and give you a little bit of background about my company, Candid Partners. What is Candid Partners? Was discussed in the introduction. We are a 100-person Atlanta-based consultancy. We're actually located in the Biltmore, just a few hundred feet up the street from y'all. And we are a cloud-native consultancy that focuses on primarily Fortune 200, Fortune 300 enterprises, and migrating them to cloud. We have some sort of specializations in a few niche areas around cloud, things like migrating mainframes to the cloud. We have a solution around intelligent data lakes, so some really cutting-edge technology solutions, IoT-related solutions in the cloud. So again, very, very cloud-native functionality focused. Headquartered in Atlanta, but focused on Southeast region. We are known in particular for our IT execution. I think I mentioned we have about 100 consultants. Our largest clients are Coca-Cola, AT&T, Anthem, SunTrust, LexisNexis. That's kind of a sampling. And while we are multi-cloud, we are in particular focused on AWS. And I should also note that we've been on Inc. 5000 of the fastest 5,000 fastest growing 5,000 companies in the country for the past 4 years. We should hit it again this coming year. And then just going into who am I? So I've lived in Atlanta my entire professional career, graduate of Vanderbilt, CS in math degree. I've always been a technologist, really love programming. I don't have any formal training in management or business. And as you can probably tell, I don't have any formal training in public speaking either. I do not think of myself as an entrepreneur. I really think of myself as a business owner. I've started 4 companies over the years. I've had a 30-year professional career. But I just think of myself as more as a business owner. And I would even say that those people that always talk about them being what's the term? Always turning around and doing startups and what's the word? Radical entrepreneur is a lot of those people I think are kind of posturing, and they tend to not be great entrepreneurs. They're always talking about what great entrepreneur they are. I'm known for being pretty blunt in my assessments and how I speak to people. There's kind of a theory in the business world about radical honesty, and I think that we have kind of a thread of that working at Candid Partners, and that's really where part of the origin of our business came from. The company it's entirely owned and run by myself and the other managing partner. His name's Merrick Olives. And like I said, we're known for being pretty straight shooters. And I think that an assessment of myself, when people come and tell me what it's like to work for me, I'm known for being tough but fair, which I think that's as good as I could ask for. I think that's a pretty good assessment of myself. So how I got here, I do consider myself the accidental entrepreneur, and I'm curious, just in the audience, so I know that we have business school people here. I'm curious, are there just pure technologists, nobody going to business school in the audience? All right, and I'm also curious, who here, who is 20 years or younger? Okay, how about early 20s? And anyone over 25? Okay, all right, good. So we have a really good mix. So, I think that hopefully my story gives hope to those people, especially the pure technology people that don't have any formal training in business or management, that if you do really ultimately want to go this route, you can go to the route of starting your own business and be successful. There's certainly some things you're going to have to learn along the way, and certainly going to business school and formalizing some of that training would help. Certainly would have helped me, but it is possible to go there just having a purely technologist background. So just going down through my 30-year professional experience, this is what it looks like, and it's kind of bucketed primarily into the four companies, but I'll walk through those just because they were very different experiences for me. My early technical career, prior to starting a business, I was just a programmer at some medium-sized businesses in town, Salesforce automation, financial services companies, and I really just learned really deep, great programming expertise from those companies. That's pretty much it. I slung code in the early part of my career. And then I started my first consultancy at 27 years old. It's called 5 Points Consulting. And that was an interesting company. We were probably the first firm in Atlanta that did Java consulting. So I think that's certainly dating myself because that's pretty well established at this point. But that was our claim to fame. We started doing some really interesting, new, innovative things like intranets. That was before you even had the concept of an intranet. We started developing those for some clients. And that was also an interesting company in that it was founded by me and 3 other people, same age, 27 years old. And we ran the company by committee. So it was a very well-managed level of dysfunction that we had with the company, because I don't know of too many companies now that can be run by committee. But every single decision we made, hiring, firing, financial, everything, was 4 27-year-olds getting together in a room and making a decision on it. So I've certainly learned that hasn't scaled, but it was good. It did help us. We did make a successful company out of it, and we ultimately wound up selling it to a firm based out in the West Coast. It was a good acquisition, and it played out pretty well, especially for some pretty young people to get to be rolled into a large part of a larger company and get some stock options and things like that. That played out well. So the second company was San Francisco based. So right after 5 Points Consulting and working for the firm that bought us for a few years, I went out to San Francisco and did a startup with my brother. That was true .com era. I saw the best window of time for a year in San Francisco. It was the boom town. I got there, parties on rooftops everywhere, everyone having a great time. And by the time I left, there was the tumbleweeds blowing on the streets. I mean, it was just catastrophic in the course of 12 months. But it was a great experience. That was my first introduction to getting finance for companies. We were angel funded, wound up going after a lot of venture capital. And it was just a very different process around building the business plan and getting financing and getting the money and building the team and building the structure to make a business run. So that's supposedly the right way to do it, at least according to my brother who went to business school. Very different template than we had at 5 Points, though, I can tell you. Then after that, I came back. I was pretty burned out. I was independent here in Atlanta for a while. Went back to just doing really technical stuff, a lot of technical architecture. Kind of went back to the stuff that I loved and didn't want to have to worry about fundraising and dealing with employees and all that madness. But that eventually kind of evolved. I had a consulting or a contract engagement up here at Coca-Cola. And the person there didn't want me to leave, so he set up a master agreement for me at Coca-Cola, and that's where I started my third company, Elucidation. I was, right around, late 30s, early 40s. The claim to fame for that company was that we provided all the technical architects for all the consumer activations for Coca-Cola. So if you see any digital activation at Coke over the years, my company provided all the technical architect expertise for that, and we still do as part of Candid Partners today. And then that company was merged with my business partners. He had a management consultancy. I had my technology consultancy. We merged them together to form Candid Partners, and that was the thing that really seemed to have resonated really well in the cloud world, is having those two pieces: the big four management consulting expertise and the deep technical, and that's really something that separates us apart from a lot of the competitors that you see out there. I mean, we are literally, as a medium-sized consultancy, there's probably literally a handful of firms, probably on the East Coast, that do the level of cloud migrations that we do. We do really, really big stuff in the order of 10, 20. We migrated Coca-Cola to AWS, $40 million cloud migration. So there's not a lot of firms out there that do the really big, complex stuff. So in talking about my background, I was trying to figure out the best way to structure this, chronological or what. And what I did is I really just came away with what I thought were 8 vignettes. In my professional career, there are probably a dozen times that I can think of, like very specific situations where I can think that I was I was in a situation, it didn't play out that way I was expecting, and I learned something for me that was profound from it. So in 30 years' time, there's probably a dozen cases. I've laid out 8 of those little vignettes for you that hopefully are educational, and there are certainly things that I wish I'd learned early on in my career, because some of these I learned pretty late, and hopefully they're beneficial to you as you're really getting your career in business started. So I'm going to start out with one, and I also want to encourage you all that, again, I'm not the very frequent public speaker, and so I encourage you guys that if you have questions about any of this stuff, you're welcome to stop me through it. I don't know what the typical format is here, but you're welcome to ask questions along the way. So if you work at Candid Partners, you would probably be familiar with the term table bangers, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But here's the situation that this is the first one I'm going to go into that was kind of game-changing for me. I was 35 years old. I was working out at Coca-Cola, and I had been doing a lot of technical work, but I was given a job to manage a project for some Coke digital activation. I was given a team of 2 people, and I was told to get a particular implementation done, and I went and worked with those people. And no matter what they did or what I did, I could not get them to implement the things that I wanted them to do. I was basically going to them and saying, I wanted you to do this and this and this, and I could not get it to happen. They just weren't listening to me. They weren't executing on it. And I wound up going back to my manager, and I'll never forget. He looked at me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm telling him I need these things done. He's like, why don't you go listen to him? Why don't you go have a discussion with him instead of going and telling him this? So I'm 35 years old. After doing 2 startups, 35 years old. And I did, and I went back and started having discussions and tried to understand these. These are fellow technologists. You think I could have gone and had the discussion. But instead what I'm doing, I'm going, you will do this. Do this. That is a table banger. Those are the people that I, to this day, can't stand. I started out 35 years old, halfway through my career, and I'm banging the tables to get these guys to do what I want them to do. And the realization in a pretty short amount of time is, your power as a manager is almost entirely derived from what your subordinates, employees, whatever you want to call them, think of you, and how they feel about you, and whether they believe in you. It's 20% title, maybe 25% title. The rest of it is entirely how you interact with them, and whether you can build confidence in them, get them to believe in what you're trying to accomplish together as a team. And that's a shocking epiphany, and it was really kind of that in itself was a failure of leadership. After 15 years of having been in the professional world, I didn't really know how to manage people until I reached 35 years old. And so again, people now at Candid Partners know that when I say table bangers, they know who I'm talking about. It's a very disparaging term to those people, and there's plenty of them out there, and you will encounter these people all through your life. And some of them get really senior positions, and people sit there and scream and bang the table and demand the stuff gets done. But I'll tell you this, the best managers I've ever worked with, hands down, and I've worked with many at this point, some really amazing people, the best ones are the nicest people. The ones that don't have to scream, that don't make a big fuss, and what they do is they play everyone in position really carefully. They're very good at listening to people, and they always give people a chance. Even if you don't think that those people are going to be successful in the role they're in, you challenge them and you have to give them a chance. And those are all lessons that I've learned in the latter part of my professional career. Vignette 2, financing. So this goes back to my little San Francisco startup time, and that was an interesting experience. We did have angel funding, $500,000 maybe, and we were running around all over San Francisco trying to get some more large-scale funding to get this idea off the ground. It was called Owner Care. We were going after several $1 million. And I will never forget going up to the high-rise in some building in San Francisco in a financial district, going to one of the top floors, and walking to this place is almost totally empty. And I'm with my brother, he went to Kellogg. He has his MBA from Kellogg, super smart guy. And he is just in awe that we got this meeting with this VC. Like, nobody gets this meeting with this guy. And we went in there and we did the pitch. And we did a really good job on the pitch. And this guy leaned back, and I don't know if he even heard half of it, but he just went in this tirade for about 15, 20 minutes and wound up going and pounding the table, and going, I don't want 20-fold return on my investment, 50-fold. I want 100-fold return on his investment. And all he was focused on was how much money he was going to get back. Didn't care about nurturing any kind of company. And he just went on this tirade. And I walked out of there, and when it came to financial financing, I think that was the point I was done. To this day, I've never in any of my companies since taken any kind of financing. It soured me that much. And the important lesson here is not that you shouldn't get financing. The important lesson is know who you're getting it from, be sure it's smart money, and know what you're getting, what the exchange is. Because there's a lot of companies here in Atlanta, there's a ton of them in San Francisco, with really smart people. They're sacrificing years of their life, working their asses off, and they haven't read the fine print of those agreements. And I've seen a number of people, we had somebody from OpenTable on the board, had all his equity yanked because he didn't meet all the terms that his VC laid out. And there's a lot of people, and I have a pretty rough opinion of VCs after that experience too. They can be pretty shark-like. Private equity, a little bit friendlier, but if you guys do go out and get financing, negotiate hard, be very careful, and don't think just because you got funding, just because you got funded, you've reached the line. That's just the beginning. Know what you're signing up for, because you can blow 4 or 5 years of your professional life for something that is incredibly one-sided. And it also goes to how we structured Candid Partners. Like, I won't do another kind of big bang startup idea. Like, I like in Candid Partners, it's professional services. We've been profitable day one. To me, it is a poker strategy. There are people in here that are going to want to go out and do the startups, where it is what I call it roulette. You have a big idea, you need a bunch of money, you're going to be like Uber, and you're just going to either blow it out or you're going to go away. And those people, it's your odds are roulette odds. But if you win, you're going to win big. And the companies that I prefer that don't have to deal with financing, more like poker. Like, I can have some good hands. Like Candid Partners, we've grown 20 to 40% year over year since inception. 20, 40%. That's poker, and I'm good. I can win with that. I'm happy with it. I don't need to blow it out of the water. Vignette 3, run the company. This is another recent one. So I've always loved consulting. I've talked to you about like my love of technology. That hasn't changed. And I thought that running I should make the point. So I stopped consulting about 18 months ago. Our company, Candid Partners, is about 6.5 years old now. I stopped consulting full-time 18 months ago. And again, we have 2 managing partners. And I thought that it was a really great way to show that I was leading by example. And I think to a certain degree it was early on. But when I stopped consulting and actually started running the business, I identified and realized that there were so many gaps in the business and so many risk areas that I was oblivious to when I was consulting full-time. And it really showed, the way I feel about it is it showed a real lack of professional maturity. Like, I should have pulled myself out 3 years ago, at least, and ran the business. That's what business owners are supposed to be doing. And the thing is I was retreating back into my comfort zone and not doing that. And on the positive side, we've really caught up. We've made up a lot of lost ground. We have completely revamped how we've structured the company. 2 years ago, we were a generalist consultancy. Now we are a cloud-native firm. A lot of people in a lot of these public cloud organizations like Google and AWS know all sorts of details about Candid Partners. They literally hadn't heard of us 2 years ago. Totally revamped how we do recruiting, bringing in somebody of Shale's talent to really make our recruiting happen. So that's totally been revamped. We had literally no marketing or sales 2 years ago, so completely revamped. So it's a totally different company, and I feel like we've caught up a lot of lost ground. But I just think, where could we have been if I'd been mature enough to have stopped doing what I was comfortable doing and started running the company 3-4 years ago? Oh, and there's one other really important point here. Like, you all should know this. Like, companies stair-step in growth. So the hardest part of a company is under 10 employees, and then you get to maybe 25. But also, you have tiers of revenue and profit. what gets you to those different stages can be radically different. So we grew our company to, I think, $16 million in revenue with, again, with no sales. Like we had no salespeople and we had no marketing. And it was all organic sales by people that actually delivered the work. But what gets you there isn't going to get you to the next level. And you got to be very cognizant. Sometimes it's a radically different approach. So really important lesson that I've learned. Vignette number 4, being a purist. So you probably learned this in business school. Do a few things, do them flawlessly. And I think that is a really important point and really how you should focus your business. My business partner says this almost every week, and I think it's a really good quote. It's, you are defined by the work you turn down. And we turn down a lot of business because we're a cloud consultancy and we get things around the edges. That's not what we do. We've grown to the point where we can be picky enough that we don't have to take that stuff that's on the borders. And it's great because it really strengthens our brand. And if you take too much stuff that's all over the map, you're going to water down your brand. You're not going to be much of anything to people. But I will say this, is when you're, the hardest part, again, of a company is less than 10 employees. And when you're in that stage of growth, like you're chasing everything. And I can tell you, there's many times when I chased those less than $10,000 opportunities. And that is being pragmatic. Like you have to be realistic. When you start a company, you're going to be, you know, I joke, you're going to be swabbing toilets and sweeping floors if you have to, if you need to do that to make enough revenue to keep the thing going. Your biggest responsibility at that stage of growth is just trying to mitigate the damage to your brand by whatever you take to keep things going. And that is every company that I've started. You always have crap stuff that you take. And it is also very true in every company I've started. The first 10 employees are the hardest. Like that is easily the hardest stage. But being a purist, here's the flip side of it. I'm notorious at Candid for hating services companies like ourselves that sell products. Services companies and product companies are radically different. And this is one thing, in fairness, that I learned very early on in my business. I can't tell you how many times I've had people from 5 Points when I was 27 years old come in and tell me that they had the best idea in the world to make a product and they wanted me to put my resources and money to help build the product, and then they would generously split half the company with me. Product and services companies are radically different. I've always hated the idea. I've always rejected it. Everyone at Candid Partners knows that I'm vehemently opposed to doing product companies. So that said, our chief architect, he's a mad scientist. He's incredibly talented. He's a great guy. And he came to me 15 months ago and sat me in a room and he said, I want an hour's worth of your time. I want to talk to you about a product, and I don't want you to say anything for an hour, please. Like, first initial protesting, he got me to sit there for an hour. And in the course of an hour, he showed me software product that really was kind of evolved from some of the work that we've done with existing clients. It was based on client need, and it was a home run to me. In the course of 1 hour, I went from being vehemently opposed to this to saying, let's do this. I called up my business partner, and I said, Aaron just showed me this amazing thing. I think we should do this product. And what does he do? First thing, he's just laughing at me. But we've done it. And we've gotten into, we now have a product. It's called Volker. It could literally be a software spinoff. It's generated over $1 million in business the first year. It's totally self-financing at this point in the first year. That shows the potential of this. Gartner's looked at it. Gartner loves it. Prospective clients love it. It's starting to get some really good exposure out there. Some of our cloud partners like AWS, very impressed with it. So, you know, the point isn't that you shouldn't have some of those hard and fast rules. I think it was good to have that rule there, and I live by it. But just know when to break the rule. When there's something really game-changing, then it's okay to break the rule. But it's okay to have those hard and fast rules. And you know, I can certainly be a purist. Vignette 6, culture and skill fit. So this was way back in the 5 Points days. And this kind of shows a certain degree of maturity that we were dealing with. We had, we were 12, 15 people at 5 Points Consulting. And we hired this one guy that seemed like the perfect fit. He's a really good guy, great technologist, and we could not land the guy on a project over the course of an entire year. And it taught me a lot of things that I've stuck to this day about professional services and consulting companies. The biggest and the most obvious one is, what the hell are you doing keeping a guy around for a year? Like, if you can't land a guy on a project in a few months, something's going, either you're doing something wrong or the person is. But it showed a lack of leadership in being able to have difficult discussion that the person's not a fit for the company. Like, that was the first and foremost and the most obvious part. But the other obvious or less than obvious parts were clients make up their mind in professional services in the first 4 weeks about people. They make up their minds really quickly. So if I land a consultant at a client site, they have 3 or 4 weeks. If you're a full-time salaried employee and you take a job, you got about 3, 4, 5, some places 6 months to make an impact. If you're a consultant, you got 3 to 4 weeks. And even more daunting is you have about 3 to 4 weeks with your peers in the consultancy. So Candid Partners, we are a team of A players. I'm not saying there aren't occasionally B players that hit Candid or even C players. B players need to bring it up to A. C players need to bring it up to A, or they're out. They opt out. We're not a company of commodity people. We are ninja specialists. That's our business model, and we embrace it, recognize it. And it is critically important that all the people in the company, because we deploy small teams of highly skilled people to solve complex problems that teams of 50, 60, 80 people can't solve. That is our business model. So if you have a team of 8 people from Candid, and 7 of those people doesn't have confidence in the 8th person, that's poisonous. You can't have that in the company. And so going back to this next point is the client makes up their mind, but also your peers make up your mind. So if you can't have an impact at a client site, the worst thing is that your fellow employees and peers, your fellow consultants, don't have confidence in you. When that happens, there's no recovery. So and the thing is, it's a huge disservice to a lot of these people. Like, we don't keep, if people sink or swim in the company, and we try to do a very careful job of vetting them, it's a huge disservice. It's a huge disservice to bring on somebody that can't do the work. It's a huge disservice to keep them around, and they're not a great fit for the company. And you got to recognize that and have those discussions. And the other final thing that's really important is this doesn't need to be conflict-ridden. Like, if somebody's not a good fit, a lot of times they recognize it. Not always, but a lot of times they know they're not a good fit, and you can have the discussion, you can talk through. You always have to give them a chance. It's always important to give coaching and give feedback. But if at a certain amount of time, several months, they're not a good fit, you need to have the discussion. And I should say one important data point. It's actually a fairly recent data point. Is we had somebody that wasn't a good fit. We had to part ways. I don't even know if it's 2 months. And they felt, actually, when we had the discussion, it wasn't like a conflict. They felt so bad they apologized. They weren't able to keep up with the quality and the caliber of people that we have in the company. They felt bad that they didn't meet the bar. And they literally apologized when we had to say, look, we can't keep you in the company. So just know that, like, if you do have to part ways, there's our gentle, constructive ways to do it. So vignette 7, sandbagger. So I use the term sandbagger as somebody just kind of pulls you down, sandbags you. This is the biggest surprise to me of all. So when we start out in a lot of my firms, but I'll just focus primarily on Candid Partners. We did start out, when we're small. Candid Partners originally, when we were probably 16 people when we first started, because we combined my business partners company. So we were under 10 people. But we were still going after small staff augmentation type work. And and we were scrapping for everything. We were a generalist firm. We weren't cloud guys yet. And we were going after all sorts of stuff. And there were some really great clients that we had that had been huge advocates for us that, gave us a decent amount of business at Coke and always pulled for us and said we had great technical experience, we were the guys, and all that stuff. And, over the years, I've recognized that there's a segment of those people that never grow out of that profile of you. And you could expect this in any business that you do, and maybe even any kind of professional endeavor you do. There's an interesting segment of people that always want to keep you in the box that they originally started you in. And we still get these requests today. Hey, can I have one of your best architects in your company to come over here and do this for $80 an hour? No? No way? Still get those requests. And, and I don't know, I think that some people just want to keep you in the box they put you in. They think that to some degree that you owe them because they helped you get your start out rather than it really being kind of a symbiotic relationship. I look at our clients and we provide a tremendous value and tremendous technical skills. So I view all of our interactions with our clients as being very symbiotic. They bring us in, they pay us a compelling consulting fee. We do great work. We do work on, in ways that is so effective that I've seen many of our clients really climb the corporate ladder at their respective companies very quickly because of the output of some of the stuff that we've done. And so it should be symbiotic, but they don't necessarily view it that way. They're doing you a favor. And so, you'll have people that celebrate your success, but there will be a segment of people that dislike it or resent it and try to keep you in your box. And I call those people sandbaggers. And you got to recognize it. And some of the people are the people I'm most surprised by. They'll try to convince you that, Candid Partners, now they're 100 people, do, $22 million. But yeah, but they're no better than that when they were $3 million, and I was just getting them staff aug people. There's going to be some of those people out there, and you just have to deal with them, and you're going to grow past them, and they're not going to like the fact that you've grown up and past maybe where they are. And then the last one is kind of a bit of an ode to my old man, who my father passed away about 3-4 years ago. He was awesome, really big guy, didn't look anything like me. 350-pound guy, boisterous, commanding presence of any room that he walked into, very entertaining, very funny, and very old school though. And I would always, over the many years, I'd go, in the last place I would go if I needed to commiserate was to my parents. I drove to my parents' place in Georgia and commiserate with my dad, who had a great business mind, lawyer by trade. And he would listen to me, and he'd always give me really great advice. But inevitably in these conversations, if I was wallowing or obsessing about something and being indecisive, his favorite phrase is you know what, John, I know you're worried about those guys, just piss on them, forget it, piss on them. And simple enough, but what he was really saying is don't overthink this stuff, John. You can wallow in these things. You need to make some decisions and move forward. You need to be decisive. At the end of the day, the two most important traits of building a business are persistence and conviction. And I absolutely believe that. Those two qualities are essential to building a business. If you have those in spades, you're gold. And and it's true. And I don't do this nearly as much as I did in my 20s. But I have absolute conviction that the value proposition that we provide our clients, again, there are literally a handful of firms with the talent density that we have at Candid Partners in all of the East Coast that can do massive, large-scale migrations to cloud and do them right. And so the value proposition is absolutely there, and I have absolute conviction. And I don't second-guess that sort of thing anymore, and I don't kind of wallow in decision-making. I think that is that was a good, interesting way for my dad to convey an important nugget of wisdom on me. So, and so those are my vignettes from again maybe 8 of a dozen that I've learned over the past 30 years. I hope you find them useful. I kind of wish I'd picked up some of these earlier on in my career because it really would have benefited me earlier on. Some of them I picked up pretty late. Are there any questions out there?
I think we got number 6 regarding employees, not hanging on to employees for too long. What if we were very early on in your business, maybe on a scale of like 4 to 5 employees, and you don't necessarily like have salaries or anything for those employees, but they're not necessarily toxic to you either. But you do see potential in the future how those employees can be more valuable, but their value hasn't necessarily paid out, quote unquote, as of yet. But
You're not quite at that stage where their value is optimized, maybe. I think that's totally fine. Like if you have the resources to keep them, like I think that's totally appropriate. Like, you know, and I think that's our business being a services firm, like, you know, there is a decision point, you know, between 1 and 2 months on whether that person makes it or not. So it's pretty clear cut for us. But yeah, like if in different types of businesses, you absolutely should do that. Like one caveat I will say, and I have learned this, is you can get some incredibly talented people. I've had one of the best architects ever. But you know, if they do create a toxic environment, I will say this, and it is one of the hardest times to get rid of an employee because you see the talent. But if they create a toxic environment, you got to get rid of them. And I've had some of the most talented, smart people, and they created a toxic environment, and I kept them around too long, and it was damaging. That is one piece of advice. But I think that's totally appropriate to keep somebody around if they haven't reached that potential that you see it and you have the resources.
So you said you're a 100-person firm. I forget how long you said you've been operating. But like, what have been some of the successes that have allowed the company to grow? And are you still looking to grow, like manpower and client-wise?
Yeah, so we started in 2013. Beginning of 2013, and you know, honestly, I think being having a very high touch engagement model with our clients. Like we were very, very close, and we were very delivery oriented, and the people that actually price and scope the work deliver it. So when you have kind of a really kind of intimate, like high-touch model like that, that's been an important key to our success because people, they almost feel like we're family coming back. I mean, that's changing now that we're growing, but like certainly the first 4 years, everyone felt like we were just kind of this family, cool, local, nearby, you know, company that they could get just a really like a lot of attention from. Yes?
Yeah, and a follow-up, like, are you taking any measures to like ensure that you maintain that sort of family feel as you continue to grow?
Yeah, so we started having what we call a client lead tier, and they were selling a lot of our business. We've actually scaled that back. So these are the people that, you know, when I say that we grew to a $60 million firm and we didn't have any salespeople, it was these people. So they bill 70% of the time, but they also sell. We've scaled that back because we found that some of our clients started not liking the people that were delivering the work, get a little salesy on them. And so we didn't want that. So we're like, okay, no more, we'll scale that back and let's have dedicated salespeople do it. And I think that's allowed us to kind of maintain that mom and pop shop feel with them. But I'm trying to think what else has been instrumental. Our go-to-market, like just being deep cloud native and a cloud specialist and getting the word out there, and then it's very, very hard to penetrate Fortune 200, Fortune 300 companies. And we are known, Gartner brought this up, they call us a strategic boutique. And, but that's what we're doing, and I think that we're showing some good success, but our sales model is we go into these companies and we don't provide like a 4-person team. When we get into a large enterprise, we're bringing in, starting out 10, maybe 20, maybe 30 people. So we go in at scale, these large enterprises. So that's very much our go-to-market model. It's very atypical for a firm our size, and it seems to be working out pretty well for us so far. But yeah, we do continue and expect to continue growing. Yes, or, I'm sorry.
My name is Dennis Hooper, and I'd like to ask you about the future growth of the company. You've grown up to 100 employees in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
In 5 years, you'll be at far more than 100 employees if you continue to grow. All of those individuals are functionally and technically competent to be able to deliver the services that you deliver to your customers. What are you doing to develop the leadership skills in those individuals so that you have leaders within your company familiar with your culture to lead you into that growth?
Yep, that's a great question. And that's something that we did. That's something actually, as much as I beat myself up on some of these vignettes, that's one of the things I'm quite proud of. 4 years ago, literally not even 2 years into the company, we realized that America and myself, as the two managing partners, were not going to scale. We were writing all the work orders, scoping all of the work, because again, most of our work, it's not, here's this person for this amount per hour. We do fixed price deliverables-based work. We scope it. If we screw it up, we're the ones that pay. That's our model. America and I were scoping all the work, and we realized that wasn't going to scale. We realized we needed a new management tier. I always held all the financials very close to my vest at Candid Partners. And what do we do after 2 years? Brought in a consultant to survey all of our employees, a neutral third party, to find out when we bring in a new management tier to be able to scale, what they wanted it to look like. And that's when we established our client lead tier. And we completely blew apart the way we were operating. And this goes back to the whole, when you go to different tiers, completely have to remake yourself. At that point, all of our financials about how we price stuff are an open book, and I literally had sessions where I taught any employee in the company how to write an SOW, how to scope it. And anyone can do it. But we did build a client lead tier. They initially started out 6 people. I think we're up to 8 client leads now within the company. And these are the people that bill it 70%, are responsible for pricing and scoping all the work, managing the risk, delivering it. And we trained all these people up on how to do it. And what was nice is this lady this consultant we brought in that polled, she brought in a bunch of great data beyond just how we should structure this role. She brought in just how people felt about the company, which was really very remarkably good. They had a lot of confidence in the company, which is nice to see. And then the most interesting thing about establishing that tier of leadership was that the people in the company did not want a manager. They did not want a new boss. So to this day, technically, Candid Partners, America and myself are the managers of everyone in the company. We have no other managers. So we're atypical. We do not do performance reviews. We are fairly, in the world of being highly structured, unstructured, Candid Partners is here. We are, our probably average experience level is 20 years in the industry. So we're this company that doesn't require a lot of structure, doesn't do performance reviews, and doesn't have like a complex management hierarchy, and doesn't have a boss telling you what to do. We do not have micromanagers. That's part of our culture. It is atypical, and it's fairly extreme on one end of the scale. That is who we are. And you know what? People love that. People that have been doing consulting for 20 or 30 years did not want to know that now they had some manager instead of me being their direct manager. And they took to that whole client lead tier very well, and it's been very effective. Like we about once a quarter, at any point in time, we probably have 30 active SOWs within our company for many tens of millions of dollars. Once a quarter, I have one SOW go awry. So we have very, very financially disciplined. That's one of the things we're exceptionally good at as a company. Do you have a question?
Yeah, actually I have 2 questions, but one of them is really short, I believe. And that is, in terms of recruiting for your staff, do you hire directly from schools like Georgia Tech, or do you expect people to come in with some years of outside experience?
That's a really good question. I'm going to give you a candid, painfully honest answer. Historically, no, we don't hire directly out of schools. I want to. I've had a couple of cases where it hasn't played out. And the thing is, it's less about the technical experience, and it's more about consulting experience. It's better for us if somebody has at least a few years consulting experience. You have to have both those pieces. We have, can't just be a great technologist. That said, as we grow, for us to be able to scale, we're going to have to start doing that. And the thing is our team sizes are changing. So when I was deploying a 4-person team at a client site, they all have to be very, very senior experience. When I'm deploying an 8-person team, a little more flexibility to incorporate some younger, more junior people. And that said, I've had some, and just to give Georgia Tech a plug, we do have quite a few Georgia Tech people and the lead engineer, 25 years old, of our software product, Georgia Tech grad. He is absolutely amazing. If I can, so my thing is I need to experiment a little bit more with this, because if I can find more people like Alex, I mean, we could be incredibly successful as a company.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The experience of just of how to be a consultant is something that you really can't learn in school. It's through actually being
And
on
that's it,
client
like the
sites.
technology, like the technical chops, we could definitely get Georgia Tech people right out of school, but like that consulting experience.
And there are a
gotta
number
have
of firms locally that do exactly that. They hire experienced people in simply because they want them to have that experience working with clients. My second question is that for many years I worked with Accenture, and we would often use small boutique firms as subcontractors, but they generally weren't able to successfully compete against us directly head to head. I'm just wondering how you position yourself in terms of your value proposition when you go into situations that may be competitive, where you have a Deloitte or Accenture or an IBM Global Services or one of those firms that are on the other, that are also talking to the same client.
So I live and breathe that every day, absolutely. Totally makes sense. So those are the people that we go up and compete. We don't compete against other boutique firms, we compete against the really big guys. So if you're a large enterprise, you're going to have the Deloitte and Accentures. Our value proposition is those guys do not have the talent density that you need to really put together a sophisticated, what we call a cloud factory. We actually have it branded Candid Cloud Factory. You need to put together a sophisticated Candid Cloud Factory process, which is automation and tooling to be able to migrate to cloud. It includes governance and a business office. You need all of this implemented within a large enterprise to be able to move to cloud. And those guys, they have what we call they have a pyramid model. You may hear some of this in business school terms. Pyramid model, you get one great guy at the top, you get 3 okay people in that pyramid, and then you get 16 commodity people. That's what our competitors provide. We're diamond shaped. When you get a team from Candid, amazing talent here, incredibly good talent in the middle, and then maybe at the bottom, it's that 25-year-old Georgia Tech student who's a freaking absolutely amazing programmer. And those guys don't have the talent density to be able to put together the level of automation that is necessary for these companies to migrate cloud. They bring in armies of people that hand code a bunch of stuff to get them to cloud. And that is problematic for many, many reasons. So at the end of the day, our job is to be able to market ourselves and be able to provide this sales pitch to be able to articulate that difference with prospective clients. Yes?
You just said that you were not a big fan of species and you did not like raising funds from them. How do you raise funds and capital for all of your companies?
My own money. And it's not that I had a big bucket of money. 5 Points Consulting, we all sat around a room and 8 people. And this goes back to like if you guys want to start a business in your 20s, I mean, this is how it happens. I talked to 8 people that wanted to do this for a half a year. We put together partner agreements and all this stuff, and when it came down to it, all right, who's ready to put $2,000 a piece? We put $2,000 a piece. All right, who's ready to write the check? There were 4 of us that were ready to write the check. People were willing to commit a half year of their time to figuring out whether they want to start a business. But when it came down to the people that actually wanted to start the company, it was 4 of us. And we had an engagement immediately that was bringing in money, and that was the business. We were profitable since day one. And same thing with Elucidation and Candid Partners. I had customers right away. And those firms that were smaller, a lot of times we had contract resources, and it's just managing your resources and managing the pipe, selling the work before you have the team on the ground. It's harder than it sounds, but it's doable. That if you're going to do a product company, you have to have different plans. Anything else? Yes.
Excuse me. You clearly don't like investment capital to grow.
That's not true.
You like it, but you don't like the constraints with it.
Private equity. If you can get private equity, those people, and that to me is true smart money. You can get some true smart money, and we have, just for the record, we have firms that want to invest in us left and right. We get calls every week, all the time from private equity that wants to invest in Candid Partners and grow quicker. And some of those people are really good people and really smart people. My beef is with venture capitalists. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of young 20-somethings in the Bay Area and even in Atlanta that don't know what they're signing up and getting themselves into, and they think that they're over the finish line when they get $1 million in VC, and then they read the fine print again.
Okay, so you've accepted private investments?
Nope, we
You-
haven't.
You haven't, okay.
They would love to. We
You'd
just
love to.
haven't accepted it.
How about, what role did debt and banking play in the evolution of your companies? And were you able to even get banking services?
No, that's a great question. Virtually none. So, like, that VC experience was so negative out in San Francisco. And my first company, we financed it ourselves. And I'm like, why would I ever do this? And ever since, and it's an extreme case, because there are good investors out there, make no mistake. And we actually had a really good angel investor in Owner Care. He was a good guy. So I just want to be sure that there are good actors out there. But that whole VC experience soured me, because we spent a year pitching these guys, pitching, and like, so many of them just seem to have no soul that I was just done. And literally to this day, the only financial thing that you can even say that we've taken is I think we have a $1 million line of credit with our bank that we've only tried it out, but we've never really needed to use. As the extent of any kind of like financial need that I've had in the past 16 years of any of these businesses.
Do you think, some of the venture invested companies are always thinking about exit? Do you think about exit? Do you think about growth?
Yeah, I mean, you got it. Like, so right now we're in an incredibly hot space, and at some point it'll cool down. Would we consider taking it at a private equity investment? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Definitely testing the water. I didn't know anything about private equity, admittedly, until about a year ago. We had so many people coming out of the woodwork that we started having discussions with them, figuring out who were the right people to talk to, and why would we do it. There needs to be a compelling reason to do it. And and you definitely want smart money. There's a lot of dumb money. There's a lot of money out there right now, so you know. And there's a ton of money looking for a home and looking for investments. And so all that is going into the mix, and we're always considering that stuff. There's certainly nothing imminent or on the horizon, I would say. It's good to have an exit plan. So, yes.
You mentioned that there are no performance reviews in your company.
Correct.
So my question is like, how do you gauge the potential within your employees, like who you want to be in the leadership position within next 5 years from a crop of 100 people? And another question is that when you remove the performance reviews, how are you able to maintain a competitive environment within the group without the performance reviews?
Leadership is not unlike management. It's not in the title that people get, and I just can't stress that enough. The leaders in our company are actually the people that seek out the leadership opportunities and find out ways to show additional value beyond what is expected of them. And when I see those people, those are the people I go after to elevate. It's not because I've bestowed any kind of added responsibility on them or additional title or recognition. Like, the people that are really good leaders I have people that, for example, there are people in the company that they have good connections in companies that we're interested in penetrating as new clients. They take the initiative, hey, John, I know these people at this company. Why don't I broker a discussion? I think that they have a need in this area around data lake. And we have this concept of intelligent data lake. It provides a ton of value. They're spending tens of millions of dollars on their data lake and they haven't gotten anything out of it. So when I have people like that taking the initiative to come in, those are the people that naturally bubble up in responsibility and authority within the company. And that's our model. And and the other thing when it comes down to performance reviews, if somebody, and I've had people come ask me for a performance review, and I'm pretty harsh about it. Like, don't, like, why are you asking me how you're doing? Like, you can go buy the client lunch. You want to know how you're doing? Buy the client lunch and ask them. You want to know how you're doing? Take the client lead out to lunch or beers and ask how you're doing. Take your peers out. And then you can come ask me. But like, if you haven't done any of those things, I'm not giving you a performance review. Like, get off your ass and like ask around and figure it out, because you have all the data at your disposal. You don't need me to fill out a paper to tell you how you're doing. That's my take.
What kind of suggestion do you have for somebody who wants to start their first business? As far as like courage, having the guts to do it. What kind of suggestion do you have? Especially around like the idea.
It like that first, I can't tell you the value of 5 Points Consulting, even though it wasn't this great, amazing thing, but like for a bunch of 27-year-olds that had no mentoring and no clue what they were doing, it was such a great experience and a great teaching experience for us. And you know what it is we just weren't going to take no for an answer. Like, I do remember going home to see my dad when we were getting ready to form that. My dad, literally, I love my dad, but he told me to my wife, he's like, that's probably not going to work out. And love you, Dad, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the conviction, persistence side of it. Like, you get an idea and you get the right people with the right initiative, and you just go after it. And I know it's cliche, but don't be afraid of failure. Like, you learn a lot. It's interesting is I don't know if he's a Georgia Tech grad. Midtown Consulting Group. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of them. They're probably a $30 million consultancy. My other business partner from that 4-person team runs a competing firm in town called Midtown Consulting, and again, Georgia Tech grad. And so that goes to show that it wasn't kind of an anomaly for me. Like, of these 4 people, 2 of them have businesses worth quite a bit of money. And it was that, and I think that us doing that initial business where we're just not going to take no for an answer, and we're going to go out there, and if we succeed, great. If we fail, great. Was powerful enough to propel us into where we are with the businesses we have at this age. Did that answer the question?
Well, John, despite not considering yourself a good public speaker, I think you imparted more wisdom here than some of the great public speakers we had. So thank you very much for that, and thanks for coming to talk.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for coming out.